It's true. I am a Freemason. A lot of people have been asking me about Freemasonry. So instead of explaining the same thing over and over again, I decided to just make this video. Let's get into it. So when I moved to Melbourne for my job as a software engineer at a Big Four bank, I didn't know a single person in the city. I knew I had to rebuild my network from scratch, and I thought, well, what's better than the Illuminati? Look, when I was a kid, I used to go deep into all that stuff. Illuminati, Freemasons, secret societies. I let my imagination run wild with it. But then I grew up. I saw the world for what it really is, and I knew it was all rubbish. Long before I ever decided to actually join Freemasonry, so no, I didn't walk in there wearing a tinfoil hat. From all the research I'd done, I could see that it was really just a group of adults who get together for events and do what I would describe as a form of acting. People call them rituals, but honestly, these are fantastic for your memory and for building public speaking confidence. And I can tell you firsthand, it absolutely helped me with my public speaking. Now here's how it actually started. I applied on the website, got a few phone calls, and then I found myself walking into the Grand Lodge of Victoria to meet three guys who called themselves, as a joke, the Three Musketeers. They were dressed in black and white suits, looking very serious. We spent about an hour just talking, who I am, who they are, why I want to join, all of this whilst drinking whiskey together. And that moment solidified everything for me. I loved whiskey at the time, and more importantly, I wanted to speak to people who had already gone through what I was about to go through in the next few decades. These guys were a lot older than me, older than my father even. Now, there are a lot of different lodges and groups within Freemasonry. These guys actually suggested I join a different lodge, one with more people my age, where the guys apparently go out a lot on Friday nights and things like that. I politely rejected. I didn't want more partying at that point. I wanted knowledge. I wanted stability. I wanted to be in the Grand Lodge with the wise guys. And that's exactly where I ended up. I hung around for about a year before I ever did my first initiation, and by hanging around, I mean I would come to various dinners and events, usually consisting of eating a lot of really good food, meeting and getting to know people, and drinking a lot of whiskey and wine. And these dinners, these were something else. It was the only time in my life I felt this sort of tavern-like situation. A large number of men, all banging on the table when someone makes a speech or cracks a joke, raising their cups in the air, chanting and drinking together, laughing. There was dancing, singing the national anthem together. It honestly felt like I was in some medieval movie. You know those scenes in Game of Thrones where everyone is at a huge table, eating and drinking and talking, and someone says something big and the whole room erupts? That's what it felt like, every single time. I'd always come after the guys had finished their rituals, and I'll use the word ritual lightly here because honestly, these are more like organized meetings where some acting is played out to stick with tradition. There's nothing really fancy or crazy that I've seen. More than a few times, the guy sitting next to me has straight up fallen asleep during one of these. People find it hard to remember their words, people cough. We're talking about older gentlemen after all. But I was generally impressed by how much they could remember, how they could confidently act their part, and the organization of it all. Because there really is a lot to know. It's like playing out a small movie, almost an army level of organization. And this is the Grand Lodge in Victoria, so the standards are pretty high. But I was always curious. Before I saw anything inside, I used to watch them all come out with their briefcases and suitcases, and and I just wanted to know what was in there. So after over a year of just observing and meeting people, I decided to go for it. I got my first initiation date. I had to learn the play, learn my words. I hadn't really done anything like this before, and I will say it is very difficult to memorize a speech and particular movements and act it all out in front of a large group of people. Not easy, but I got through it, and I was told it was one of the best performances some of them have ever seen. Every single person shook my hand and congratulated me on the way out. I remember before I did it, I was probably looking a little nervous, although from memory I was actually totally fine about the whole situation. But one of my friends, or shall I say brothers, told me to grab some whiskey to ease up before I went in. I don't think that really helped though. If anything, alcohol makes it even harder to remember your lines. So now I was initiated, I had more things to learn to get to the second degree. It's essentially another play to act out, and throughout the time, it's more of the same. Dinners and alcohol, singers, magicians, mimes, all sorts of entertainment is brought to our dinners. Sometimes large fancy venues are booked out. Once I went to a meetup where I saw literally hundreds of Freemasons all gathering together in this enormous fancy building, and that's when it really hit me. There are a lot of different lodges and groups in Freemasonry. It is the biggest fraternity on the planet. Some of the banners they were holding have interesting depictions, pyramids with eyes, different symbols. Some banners say different interesting things, and yes, I get it, that can stir up all types of conspiracies, but honestly, lodges are free to depict their group however they want. I could make my own lodge if I had 6 other Freemasons agree with me. I could call it what I want, make the banner whatever I want. It's really not some big master plan from what I've seen. In the end, you can find all the lodge names on the internet. They're all registered. Freemasons keep meticulous records of all members, attendance, pretty much everything. Nobody is actually hiding anything, at least not from my experience. There are more esoteric lodges. There are also more standard lodges focused on charity, university ones where there are a lot of academics and teachers. It's really up to the lodge creators themselves. Freemasonry is almost like a franchise in my mind, one that you can be a part of and even create your own group under. It's a registered charity, so a lot of it has to do with donating, and Freemasons donate a lot. In fact, the Royal Freemasons Hospital in Melbourne, that's essentially a Freemason-built institution, and this isn't unique to Australia. Freemasons have been behind some pretty significant things throughout history. The Statue of Liberty, Frederick August Bartholdi, the sculptor, was a Freemason. The cornerstone was laid in a Masonic ceremony in 1884. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, 14 US presidents in total, all Freemasons. Mozart was a Freemason. The very first public hospital in the United States, founded in Philadelphia, was heavily supported by Freemasons. In the UK, Freemasons have donated hundreds of millions to medical research, disaster relief, and education. And on the darker side of history, the Nazis specifically targeted Freemasons during World War II. Hitler saw Freemasonry as part of a supposed Jewish conspiracy. Between 80,000 and 200,000 Freemasons were estimated to have been prosecuted across occupied Europe. Lodges were shut down, their property seized, and members were sent to concentration camps where they were forced to wear an inverted red triangle to identify them. In Franco's Spain, being a Freemason was a criminal offence for decades, and it's part of history people don't really talk about much. Now, back to my journey. I went and did my second degree. It was a more complex play with longer lines. It was fun, and we did more drinking and eating. The third degree was the most interesting one. A lot of effort went into it from everyone, including myself. I believe I memorized everything perfectly, and that is really the main thing about Freemasonry to me. Learning how to memorize, learning how to perform, and I think that's actually how some of these guys are literally in their 90s, approaching 100, and still coherent enough to hold deep, meaningful conversations. This stuff keeps you mentally connected and active long after retirement. It gives you a sense of purpose and belonging. Now, some of the questions I get around what type of networking or help I get from it. Honestly, I've met a lot of people from all around the world through Freemasonry. When you're a Master Mason like myself, you even get a passport. You can go to any lodge in the world as long as you can perform the signs, you know, the passwords, and you let them know you're coming through your own lodge's secretary. You can just go there and walk in. And yes, I said secretary because Freemasonry is basically run like a business. Offices, accountants, receptionists, everything. People do get job stability from it too. I know a lot of young guys who now have 9-to-5 jobs through the organization, and they seem happy with it. While meeting all these people, it really is a mix of everything. Yes, there are business owners and executives, people who have factories creating artillery shells, and people who are on Centrelink looking for work. Software company CEOs, it's everything. Have I made connections through it that have helped me? Yeah, I think a little bit, but I haven't had any direct promotions or anything come out of it. In fact, I haven't been promoted since I started working where I am at all, regardless of being a Freemason or not. So no, this is not something you join and suddenly get carried through life, at least not for me. And I'm pretty well known in my lodge just because I bring quite a bit of value with my own skills. I work in a Big 4 bank as an architect in payments technology. I was a software engineer for many years, and I have my own dream business which I started with $0. That makes me pretty valuable in the lodge because when other young guys come to check it out, a lot of the time they end up speaking to me and they feel like they want that kind of connection. I also love connecting with other guys that way. I met a new friend who isn't a Freemason yet, but is going to do his initiation soon, kind of hanging around like I did. We've hung out a lot lately and we're starting to figure out how to do some business together. His plan is to create like a cocktail club where he teaches people to make great cocktails, which is exactly what I love. I would have never met him if it wasn't for Freemasonry, so in the end, that's exactly why I joined. Networking, whether it's someone helping me or me helping someone else or both. Oh, and the food, because now I don't drink at all. My life has become so fun and entertaining and exciting. I want every bit of energy and every second I can find to progress what I'm doing. There's no room for alcohol anymore, which honestly is a huge part of Freemasonry, at least in Australia, in Melbourne, in my lodge. There is a lot of alcohol. Now, I know this is a bit weird coming from a little devil VTuber on the screen who is also a Freemason. I'm sure a lot of religious fanatics are going to have a field day with this, and all the conspiracy theorists will see it as some type of cosmic connection. I even like to listen to music like Rihanna's Umbrella because my AI VTuber Lilith Mummy here is configured to sing and dance to that song. So yeah, there are a lot of ways you can connect dots and think I'm some Illuminati controlled entity, but anyone who actually knows me or is part of my community knows that it's all nonsense. I'm just a guy who loves video games, got into programming, landed a job at a Big 4 bank, decided to follow my passion with computers and games, and started a platform for gaming tools, trading in-game items, and building and giving away computers. Then I joined Freemasonry to meet new people, get connections, find friends, and honestly at first, I really liked drinking whiskey with other guys, which I just don't find interesting anymore. Now I want to focus on being the best that I can be. Personally, I do think there is some fishy stuff going on in the world here and there. There's always that small percentage of people doing shady things, but I also think they are just that, people. There's nothing magical about anyone I've ever met. Everyone ages, everyone forgets stuff, and I just find it hard to believe there's some deeply rooted organization secretly controlling everything. I'm starting to cringe every time I hear they and them in random content online, as if some entity is making their lives miserable, when in reality nobody is even thinking about that person or what they are doing. They're just ruining their own lives and blaming it on something else. There are lots of different countries with lots of different leaders and organizations, all trying to do what they can to get as much power and resources as they can. That's just normal human behavior. Your next door neighbor is doing the same thing. Now, unless you're a politician, a general in a large army, running for president or something huge like that, it shouldn't even be on your mind. You can make millions of dollars and do whatever you want without ever coming into the radar of anything like that. You can also move to different countries where nobody has even heard of the Illuminati. Are you getting the picture here? Perhaps there is some truth to things here and there, but the majority of it is a result of too many movies, then too much random internet content with no facts and ultimately fantasies. Obviously, things get touched and moved. People are going to want to put their fingers in whatever is important to them, but there's nothing surprising to me about that. If an organization is as large as Freemasonry is, it's going to have its presence in many places. For example, now people might think Freemasonry has something to do with my company, but in reality, my company would exist with or without Freemasonry. Freemasonry just gets associated now by default because I happen to be a Freemason. I don't even know if the association is wanted, to be honest. I mean, look at me. I'm a little devil cartoon. And the little devil has a history too that people who've been watching my streams understand. I didn't even choose this character for myself. It just kind of happened based on different events. In the end, I don't really care what I am as a VTuber as long as it's funny and entertaining. And I think that's what a lot of other musicians and artists are doing as well, trying to be edgy, entertaining, fun. Some of them go dark, but this is all just like painting a picture. Just because someone paints an image of a demon doesn't mean demons actually exist. I've never seen one, but I know what I have seen. Animals, people being born, people dying, people advancing technology, people fixing things. That is reality. And it really doesn't matter who is out there controlling what, unless you are directly involved. It's so important to just focus on your own life and your own reality if you want to learn more about having a genuinely good life and how to stop focusing on things that do not matter to you at all, like whether the Illuminati is controlling your favorite rapper or not. Go watch my most powerful mindfulness technique video. I'll link it somewhere here. If you have any questions about anything I just said, drop them in the comments. I don't usually get that many comments, so I can easily get to all of them, and I do. You can also come and ask me live when I'm streaming on the weekend. I might ignore some highly religious questions and comments because I think belief systems are personal and I'd rather not argue with anyone about whatever theirs is. I'll just say this. My focus is to understand reality as close as possible to what it really is, and I base that on my own experience, not on what anyone tells me, not on what I read. I also don't answer any questions or talk about politics. In fact, that's actually a rule in Freemasonry. We don't talk about politics. And you might think there's something sinister behind that, but in reality, nobody even needed to explain to me why that rule exists. It's because we, as a community, want to stick together. And if everyone starts talking about politics, people are going to fight. Simple as that. So please don't start fights in my community about things that don't even matter to us. I'm not a politician and never will be. I don't know any politicians and I just don't really care. I also am not going to answer anything directly related to Masonic secrets because I did take an oath. However, there is not as much we hold secret as people might think, and in general, most things are out in the open as long as you are actually there to experience them. With social media, internet, and AI these days, almost nothing can really stay secret. Alright, that's my experience with Freemasonry. Take it for what it is. That's Little Devil's Wisdom.